feelings of fear and the brands that are near us during the most intense moments. Let's get into it. This is Shadûf.
Welcome to Shadûf, the place where business, research, and entertainment make a baby in your mind. And you will come to find you'll start to challenge business standards because you'll trust the data, but not from Star Trek, because that's a made-up character. Welcome to Shadûf. The sun has gone too long, let's start the show.
Drink that Pepsi.
Welcome back to the Shadûf podcast. This satisfying rattle of ice in my cup means it's time to start our show. I'm your host, Weston Smith, here with Head of Research Dustin Harding and fellow research scientist Lauren Silva. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. How you doing?
Doing awesome.
Good deal. Well, it's October.
Spooktober.
And as promised, last podcast episode, we said that we would deliver a Halloween-themed study, and that's what we're going to do today. Last year, we talked about a study regarding fear and how feeling the effects of fear make people want to purchase more candy. Correct?
That's correct. Sorry, I just got a text from Gary Vaynerchuk. I was just,
cool.
Let me check
How's
that.
Gary?
That link.
How's Gary V doing?
Let's see. Gary says, I don't know. He's selling something.
He's up to something.
He's
those NFTs, those
half.
are your man.
He's
12 and a
good.
half, leveraging the emotional ingredients necessary for business success. You know.
I stopped paying attention in the middle of that. So.
Is he going to turn that into an NFT too?
It's all about those NFTs.
They'll get you,
Sorry.
man.
Gary V's NFTs. Okay, well, moving on.
Yes. So you are correct, though. So last time,
But fear.
and consumption was the last episode. Not last episode, but the Halloween episode last year.
Right. How emotion sometimes might make us feel the propensity to indulge in something.
Right.
Sugary or buttery or high caloric foods, right? Like snack foods and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So check that episode out if you're curious.
Yep. If you haven't listened to that one, that's a good one. We talked about some of our fears. We talked about irrational fears, but let's talk about.
Yeah.
Let's go around and say what our greatest fear is.
Oh shoot!
Starting with Lauren.
I didn't come prepared for this, Lauren.
I'm scared of a
Let's
lot of
we're
things.
we're getting deep here.
My greatest fear,
Yeah. What is it,
Yes,
Lauren?
probably getting kidnapped.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my greatest fear is getting kidnapped. I don't know. Sometimes when I walk, if I have to park on the street and I'm walking home at night, I have my pepper spray and stuff because I'm actually very concerned. Nothing bad's ever happened to me.
And wise. That's
but,
good
you
to
know,
have.
But if we're talking about something that's not quite as severe as kidnapping, then spiders and all sorts of bugs. Last night there was a bug on the wall in my apartment and I screamed and almost cried and had to go to the other side of the room and my roommate grabbed it and threw it outside.
Yeah, that's right. You are insanely afraid of bugs. There was a bug crawling on the floor, and
You herded it towards me.
I was
you literally
pretending
you
to
coaxed.
nudge it in the direction of Lauren,
You-
and she was getting mad at me,
You were walking directly behind the cockroach.
getting it to go in the right direction towards your shoe.
It just knew that you wanted it to come towards me. You had a connection with that cockroach. It was terrible.
It wasn't even a cockroach. It was
Was it
a
not?
teeny tiny little beetle bug.
In my mind, it was a cockroach.
Hey, Lauren. You know, I learned a couple weeks ago that grasshoppers bite. They can bite you.
Ow! I just feel really
You know?
gross thinking about that. It hurts.
Dustin
is
has
the-
a video of a grasshopper biting his neck.
Yeah, I love little grasshoppers. I'm with the kids, letting it crawl on my shoulder, and they're like, "Oh, Dad's so funny." And then he crawls onto my neck, and he bites the back of my neck.
Okay, Dustin, how about you?
Oh, fear. I sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I get fearful of apocalyptic events. I get fearful of that. You're just kind of going along doing your thing, and something happens that completely crushes reality. And all of a sudden, everything that was important is no longer important. And everything you've worked for your whole life, it doesn't even matter at all. Your job, your employment, all of that, just nothing. Yeah, we got a little taste of it during the pandemic, but
yeah, a little taste.
A little taste, but not really to that
I
scale.
mean, Yeah, but enough to like imagine worse, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's sad.
Like
Yeah.
all
Sad but
stores
true.
close. Like you can't, like people go crazy and
Yeah.
That is pretty scary. Add that to my list too.
Okay, so mine would be being framed for something. I mean, it just takes someone not liking you, and then they set you up, and you have that feeling of helplessness. And I don't know. Occasionally, I find myself like taking mental note of where I was with or with whom, so that I can sort everything out. State my alibis and like who I'm with or something. I don't know. I guess that's my fear.
It does happen though. Like I listen to a lot of true crime, and sometimes it's like they put the wrong person away, and they find out like years later that it wasn't actually them.
That's terrifying.
Yeah,
and
it is
usually
terrifying.
I'm generally found in good places, so I don't have to worry about that, But
Wow, what a
well,
somber
this is,
tone.
I think
I
I
thought
liked
this would
it.
be more fun.
I thought that the irrational fears was more fun. This one's like, well, that's
like-
deep stuff, guys.
really sad. Let's redo this one.
Tell us about the research.
Let's introduce this research. Lauren, why don't you go ahead and introduce the research for us?
Yeah, sure. So this is an article from the Journal of Consumer Research back in 2014, and the article is titled "The Impact of Fear on Emotional Brand Attachment." And so the paper is just kind of going about, and it's talking about, and they did research on how people connect with brands when they're in fear-inducing situations.
Okay.
And it's different from, like, there's been a lot of research done on, like, fear advertising, fear marketing, where they use, like, fear tactics. Like, I usually think of, like, like the smoking commercial kind of.
Stop smoking or you'll get cancer.
Yeah.
Like that kind of fear appeal is yeah.
Yeah, but this one is seeing how people form attachments to brands that are in their presence when they are in some sort of fearful situation. Like, for example, they use in this study scary movie clips.
Okay. So during those moments, if they're
Yeah.
introduced to a brand, they will be more likely to cling to it or feel a sort of a pull towards it.
Yes.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like, so they randomly put each participant in a group where they're either seeing scary video clips from The Ring and Salem's Lot.
Okay.
That's a scary condition. That's a scary group. Or they watch other clips. Some of them would evoke like an exciting emotion, a sad emotion, or a happy emotion.
Okay.
So they just kind of have these different clips. And they have this sparkling water is what it is.
Okay.
Sparkling juice, sparkling water in some of the studies.
Like a brand.
I thought
Yeah.
it was interesting, too, when they chose the products for this study. They
Yeah.
chose things that were not locally found, so people didn't have, like, a prior attachment to it
I gotcha.
necessarily.
Yeah, it should be important to this study, right?
Right.
If they already have an
They're
attachment,
familiar with it.
then they may not-
have an
yeah.
opinion of it. And
or they don't like the brand,
Right.
maybe that's good. That
one
would
way
have
or
an
another, it
impact.
would skew the
Yeah.
research if they were familiar with it already.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And so then they measured emotional attachment, so
Okay.
how attached they were to that brand. And what they found is that when the participants were in the fear condition, that fear group, when they saw these scary movies,
Okay.
they were more emotionally attached to the brand,
brand.
which was really cool.
Okay. Does it say what questions they ask to gauge that level of attachment? Like how likely would you be to purchase one of these products or
Yeah, it was a 10-item scale. They rated either not at all or very much
Okay.
to indicate how they felt toward the brand. And it was affectionate, friendly, loved, peaceful, passionate, delighted, captivated, connected, bonded, and attached.
okay.
Yeah, and in this study, what they did is the participants were told that they were completing 2 separate studies. So they were told they were like watching a video clip for this first study, and then they were doing a product evaluation for the second one, and they asked them to like get familiar with the sparkling water, you can drink it and stuff during that first study, so then they'd be prepared for the
Okay.
second one, answering the questions and stuff.
Interesting.
So the participants didn't know that sparkling juice had anything to do with the videos.
that it was connected in any
Yeah.
way. Okay. Wow.
And what's really cool, I think, is the explanation behind what's going on.
Okay.
Another thing that they measured through scales as well was the participants' perception of sharing that experience with the brand. So sharing that experience of watching the film with the brand.
Really?
Yeah. And so what they found is during that feared condition, when you're fearful, you feel more like you're sharing that experience with the brand.
Like the brand is there too, experiencing it, and it's
experiencing
getting you
with
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what increases your level of attachment toward the brand.
Oh my gosh. It's almost like we personify this this brand, and it's like becomes our friend and kind of holds our hand.
Yeah.
What was it? Just fear that was the only outlier in the spike? All the other emotions like excitement and happy and sad and all those other clips or videos that they watched, there wasn't any like scale or rank among them, and fear was the highest, or were they all low and fear was like the only one that actually triggered that connection?
It depends on the study, I think. Sadness was sometimes, I think in at least one study, the lowest.
Okay.
But fear was always the
It was
highest.
Top one.
consistently high,
Yeah.
right? I just wondered if the excitement, if there's something with adrenaline or something that didn't
Excitement
affect
was
it.
one of the emotions, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it didn't affect it as much as, definitely not as much as fear.
Yeah. And what's cool, one thing you were saying, there's this other paper. It's another possible explanation behind what's going on.
So this is new research.
This is new research, like
Okay.
a different paper. It's titled Brand Aid.
Brand Aid.
Brand Aid. Brand Aid.
It's like a pun off of Band-Aid and brands.
Wait, I didn't even realize that.
It is a side note. It is kind of funny. I mean, several people are aware of this, but how certain brands become part of our everyday speech. Like, oh, get me a Band-Aid. Band-Aid is actually a brand. Kleenex, get me a Kleenex. Well, Kleenex is an actual brand. It's, a tissue, right?
Yeah.
But we more often say Kleenex over tissue. Anyways,
Yeah.
Band-Aid is a perfect example of a brand that has integrated itself into all of our lives. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we won't go like a whole
Deep
lot
into
into this paper, but it's another kind of explanation for what's going on. They showed that in the presence of brands, you feel less physical pain. And the explainer behind this is that you feel this social connection to this brand. And because of that social connection and support, when you're experiencing pain, it's in a lesser state.
Really?
Yeah.
That's insane.
So what could be going on here in this fear and branding paper is that, yeah, they feel like they're experiencing it with the brand more, and it may be because of this social connection. In this fearful state, they may be more socially connected because they need that reinforcement through this experience.
Because they feel if they're going to experience this sort of pain, whether it's a threat of pain or even if it's emotional pain or something,
fear.
that the brand is going to see them through it.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel that less because that brand is there.
Yeah, which really makes me think that strategy for guys to take girls out on dates and go see a scary movie isn't that bad of an idea.
Wonder, yeah.
Man, I just somehow feel so attached to him for some reason.
That's true.
Does not always work though.
No, it's always works.
No,
It
guaranteed.
always
100%.
works.
This has become a dating advice podcast. So
Where can we go from here?
So what applications could we make from this? Could people use this in any way? Honestly, I'm trying to think, like, have I seen like a scary movie and then like obvious product placement during that scene? Because I can't really think of it. Is what's weird. I've seen product placement, but it's usually in like sidelines in between scenes or in more lighthearted scenes or something. I'm not really thinking of any like fear-based scene that has a clear brand placement or logo or anything.
Well, I also think part of it, and at least in this study, is having the actual physical product.
With
is
you.
part of it, yeah. And another aspect of it, because they go into in some of the other studies, is like their feeling of social connectedness. So like the second study looked at how connected they felt to the outside world. So like for like half the participants, they completed like a word search that had like words like accepted or like connected or different things like that in it.
Okay.
And then they asked them how connected they felt like to the world. And then in the people who just were in just like a neutral condition, they just had like regular word search words. like
Really?
seeds or just different like random things. And the people who didn't have the social connection, who didn't feel like connected to the world because they didn't see those words that evoked feelings of connectedness, they were the ones who had the higher fear, like brand attachment.
Really?
Than the ones who were connected. So I think part of it too might be you don't always watch scary things like,
Right.
by yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, I think even like when you're talking about movies, like even just being in a movie theater, like with other people, you may not know everyone in there, but you feel connected to them because you like have this like shared experience kind of thing. So I think that it kind of lessens in that case.
And you always have your Coca-Cola with you, so you have that brand reassurance along with the people. But it's kind of funny because as Dustin and Lauren were looking into this research, Lauren was like, Weston, what kind of brands do you feel attached to? Do you feel like an emotional connection to? And one of them, for whatever reason, is Coca-Cola. And I don't always drink Coke, but I always just feel nostalgic towards it. I always just feel it's so classy. I really like their brand. I mean, yeah, probably when you get down to it, they're this huge, heartless corporate enterprise that just wants to get us addicted to their product, you know. Who knows?
Their advertising is phenomenal. Like their whole like share a Coke thing. It's like it's no longer just a personal experience. It's like you're buying a shared experience kind of thing. People love that. It's a great feeling.
It's kind of a thing for companies to do product placements in horror films. Like it's not uncommon at all. In fact,
Right.
it's becoming more and more common. But, you know, some examples, I mean, the first thing that we thought of that came to my mind was E.T. I think of the Reese's Pieces in E.T. and
Right.
the Pepsi is
Pepsi's all
a
over the
product
place.
placement in E.T., you know. And,
Right.
and even though I can't think of any product placements in the creepiest scenes there, still you're dealing with a fairly creepy alien.
Oh, sure.
And so
There's
so
a lot of
maybe-
intense scenes, and
Yeah. So perhaps that's building your attachment toward those brands there.
Okay.
Jack Daniels is a product placement within The Shining.
Shining, which is one of the great classics.
Yeah. There's it looks like there's Alien Covenant. That one
watch
that Alien Covenant. That one there's a product placement for a Steinway
Okay.
piano, but also they have this AI. Robot that's like an Audi. It has the Audi logo
Audi
on
logo.
Oh.
it, which is fun. Jurassic
Okay.
Park, Ford Explorers and Jeep Wranglers, of course,
Oh, yeah,
throughout
big
all throughout
time.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and those are definitely in some of the intense scenes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park.
Right.
That's like the creepiest scene.
Yeah,
Where
the scene with-
Nedry's trying to escape and the Dilophosaurus like attacks him. That's intense, and that's all done
Spits in his eyes.
in a Jeep.
All in a Jeep. So here's what, as you were talking about this, here's what I found interesting. Because I was trying to think, like, okay, have I seen this before? And I couldn't think of one right away. But I can think of other clear, blatant uses of product placement. And I guess I would say that that's a good thing. That the fear that you feel in those movies or in those particular scenes maybe makes the product placement less obvious because you're distracted by the emotion of the scene, and then you're feeling that extra connection during the scene. Because sometimes when it's blatant product placement, it just kind of feels cheap and shoehorned in, right?
Yeah, less natural.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems out of place, that product placement, right?
And for whatever reason, in the scary scenes, you
attach to it. It doesn't seem as unnatural. It seems like, oh no, I want this product placement to be here.
Yeah, it almost feels like someone's throwing you a lifeline because it's getting you through that. That's so fascinating.
It'd be interesting to see if product placement works better just in scary movies overall, like not just in the intense scenes, because I mean, you're still in that like heightened state through the whole entire movie.
You're totally right.
And it'd just be interested to see if the product placement just performs better overall, like even if it's not like quite the connection like we're talking about.
There's still that like underlying suspense. You're totally right. Okay, so is there any other areas that this sort of research could be applied potentially? I'm going to watch for the movies now. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for that kind of thing.
Well, I think, I mean, This is probably a dark, twisted way to go, but
That's all right.
Not so
Hey.
dark.
This is a podcast. We're just exploring these topics, right?
But it's no wonder that we're having issues in certain countries, like this country, with this obesity epidemic with children. Because, I mean, you send kids out on Halloween with all the spookiness, and they're going and grabbing candy, and they're becoming attached to these brands.
You put the brand of candy in the palm of their hands, right in front of their faces.
With all these scary skeletons
Scary
all
skeletons
around
all
and
around.
witches and
This is perfect.
and so you
This
know,
is a payday for candy companies, right?
yeah, I mean these kids early on. I mean, if you know, we're definitely pulling this research further than what the studies definitely go. But seriously though, kids are going to be more susceptible to this than anything.
Right.
And so you put them in a creepy environment where they're getting candy, they're going to become very attached to these products and these logos and brands.
The brands
And there has been research that has looked at that those associations that you build with brands in your childhood carry with you into adulthood.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
And other countries don't do that as much. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting to look at what countries celebrate Halloween in the same type of creepy way where you get candy and see if that is correlated with child obesity.
That'd be so
Seriously.
interesting.
That would be way interesting. Well, I love the topic of fear and, talking about the range of human emotions and what we cling to and how we cope with these different emotions. It's just fascinating. So do with that research what you will and have a happy Halloween. Go out and enjoy some delicious Snickers bars.
Or Reese's Pieces.
Or your favorite candy, Lauren.
Oh, that's not my favorite candy.
Okay. What's your favorite candy?
Oh, sour gummy worms.
Sorry, I'm
Dang it, you took mine. But in combination with Swedish Fish.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
You just kind of alternate between them as so you get kind of too soured out, then you go for the Swedish Fish.
You can eat way more candy that way.
Yeah.
And I will recommend some hard stale Bitto honeys.
Sounds terrible.
And join us next time on the Shadûf podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Shadûf podcast. If you enjoyed it, we have many other episodes. In each one, we focus on a different topic of research. Some of it might be useful to you, but it is all interesting. Shadûf is sponsored by the Utah Valley University's Woodbury School of Business. Feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcast and follow us on as many social media platforms as you can. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We're trying to make this awesome information as accessible as possible, but we can't do it without you. So please join us.
Oi, mate, how's doing and all, guys?